Hey there, listeners. Welcome to Seek Travel Ride, where we share inspiring stories of incredible bike adventurers from all around the world. I'm your host, Bella Malloy, and I'm thrilled you're tuning in. This episode is brought to you by Old Man Mountain, trusted bike racks built for adventure. Whether you're hitting rugged trails or cycling across continents, Old Man Mountain racks carry your gear with unbeatable durability. They're engineered to fit any bike, they're designed to handle heavy loads and tough terrain, which makes them a perfect choice for your bike adventure. So if you're feeling inspired hearing our guests' stories and now looking to gear up for your own bike tour, Old Man Mountain has your back. Visit oldmanmountain.com and discover how their racks can make all the difference on your adventure.
In this part, we were kind of having like a really long descent. And I was just like braking, and then I just realized, oh my God, like it's not braking anymore. And that I think this was like one of the worst moments of my life, honestly, because it was just like pure fear inside my head. I lost completely control of the bike, and the road was like a dirt road with a lot of bumps, and I was going faster and faster, 50 kilometers per hour, downhill. So I mean, at some point there was like a cliff and like a short turn. So I was like, okay, either I jump from the bike or I just jump completely.
Welcome to the Seek Travel Ride podcast, where we share the stories and experiences of people who have undertaken amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on two wheels with our listeners. Hello, I'm your host, Bella Malloy, and I'm excited to introduce my guest for today's episode of Seek Travel Ride, Giacomo Turco. Giacomo is currently making his way from Patagonia to Alaska, a journey which overall he expects will take him 2 years to complete. So, how is it that a space engineer from Italy finds himself disrupting his career, selling his possessions, and deciding to take on such a long bike adventure? How is it that the pull of bikepacking became such a driver in his life? And how is it that he's found himself on a plane to Ushuaia with the thrill of a 2-year adventure ahead of him? Giacomo is currently 9 months into this journey, and I'm speaking to him now from Peru, where he has just completed a monumental trek all the way up to 6,000 meters plus of elevation. Now, something that's become really clear to me as I was researching about Giacomo is that he isn't one to be taking what we would call the conventional touring route through South America. Indeed, he skipped out on the famed Carretera Austral, preferring instead to seek out the more rugged trails which tourists rarely visit. During this journey, he has faced adversity in the forms of high altitude, inclement weather, injury, broken equipment, and debilitating sickness. Yet, time and time again, Giacomo has managed to deal with these struggles and find the resolve to continue the adventure. I'm sure he'd agree if time was measured by experiences, he's already had enough to count for multiple lifetimes. All is to say, I am extremely excited to be speaking with Giacomo today and to learn all about what it's been like for him out there on the trail, making his bikepacking dream a reality. Giacomo Turco, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Bella, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
I'm excited to speak with you, Giacomo. And like I said, there are so many adventures and stories within the adventure that I can't wait to learn about from you. But a question which I start my show with, and I ask it of all my guests, is Giacomo, do you remember the very first bike you ever rode?
Oh, I mean, there was actually, yeah, I think it was a very small bike. I used to go there with my father. We used to kind of cycle and close to, yeah, it was like a playground, kind of. I remember it was just like a circle. We were just going around all the time with the small wheels that you use to get more balance. And it was maybe, yeah, 20 minutes from my house. But I mean, I think to be honest, like in my childhood, I mean, cycling was just like a normal sport, a normal activity.
Yeah. So you obviously you grew up in Italy, and so cycling was once you learnt how to do it, riding a bike was just something everyone would normally do around you. So you sort of always kept riding bikes growing up?
Yeah, and like the thing is that I grew up like in Valpolicella, that is like a wine region close to Verona. Kind of grew like among vineyards, and basically, actually, a bit in a remote place because I was like maybe, yeah, maybe 20 minutes by bike downhill to the place where there was like a small town where like all my friends used to gather. So every time I was just going down with my bike and go up again. For me, like since the beginning has been like, okay, you can just like leave when you want and just like go there. Because I mean, walking would have been really long and just the first small adventures of my life, kind of nothing really crazy, but still like independence in some way.
I love the idea that even at a young age, you're exploring places. Living in that region of Italy, then in the countryside, I'd love to know what your relationship with the outdoors is like then, because I know from researching about you, Giacomo, you studied university. I think you were in Sweden and you did your master's thesis in Japan. So you've lived in some bigger cities as well, no doubt.
Yeah.
Are you a lover of being in the open, rugged outdoors, or are you someone who feels more at home now in a city environment?
When I grew up, I mean, I always used to kind of play outside, and especially like in the summer, spend the all day outside, like inventing adventures and like I don't know, really playing with the fantasy a lot. This shaped really a lot my character and like how I am. Because I think that to be honest, if I didn't have like a childhood like this, I would have never been so keen on adventure and like I would have never like started a trip like this. I think these were really like the foundations on me as a person. I really got in love with like exploring. Exploration, I think, is really a word that defines me. So, I mean, having like behind you what you know, like your safe space, your house, and in front of you what is uncertain, what you want to discover. You move your small steps to kind of get to know the unknown. And I mean, also playing outside like this, I was learning to be like actually an astronaut. It was like a very common game. And this actually, I feel, was probably what in the end led me to, yeah, to study aerospace engineering because let's start with this dream. Because I mean, I remember when they asked me, "What do you want to do as a job?" When I was like 5 years old, I said, "Yeah, I want to be an astronaut." And then, I mean, I just studied for that. Related to your question with the cities, I think that I really enjoy being outside. And I mean, I think like for me, at time I bit suffer like to be so far away from the city, all my friends, because I mean, all the things were happening in the city. But also at the same time, I think gave me like a mindset. I don't know that is very different from all my friends that lived in the city. And I did those in big cities like Milan. And I mean, Stockholm is more like a balance. Actually, it's like really nice for this. But I would say that, I mean, overall, I just realized like a couple of years ago, okay, it's nice to live in big cities, but for me, being outside is like 100 times better, to be honest. And this is really what also this journey kind of really telling me really strongly. And I mean, I love being outside. I'm just not used to anymore to like stay in big cities. And I just feel I feel awkward in all this traffic, all these sounds. I don't know. I just really love nature, and I think that I see my future in nature, and I think also for my children will be. I think it will be very important for me to like grow up my children outside because it makes such a big difference.
It also really is pretty clear to me, even from your first initial tours that you took, because this 2 year trip that you're currently on, it's huge. But you did take some smaller steps to doing that. I think your first tour, where you had no sort of bikepacking experience whatsoever, was to Iceland, correct?
Yeah, and actually, it was pretty funny because I actually didn't know much about bikepacking, and I was doing my thesis in Japan, and my supervisor was like saying, "Yeah, maybe sometime when I go on holiday, I like to put my bike on the train and go around with the bike like this." But I just thought, it's interesting. This idea of traveling with the bike seems like, it interests me. And what happened is that, I mean, when I came back home, I just said, okay, before starting to work, I want to do a big journey with my bike. Actually, it was like lockdown period because it was like beginning of 2021. There was the vaccine going around, but still I didn't have it. So the idea was to do like a very big trip. My idea was to go maybe to Nepal like this, but it was not possible. It was possible just to move around Europe. And the initial idea was to go like around Italy, but I don't know. I just didn't feel very excited about it. And as you know, by luck, probably being excited about a journey and destination when you're bike touring makes really a big difference because if you're not excited, then you're not going very far.
Excitement's the best drug you could take for an adventure, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, a friend of mine told me, hey, maybe you can go to Iceland. And I did some research, and in Iceland was possible to go, and you just had to do like 5 days of quarantine in a 4 stars hotel that was paid by the Iceland government. So that was really cool. And if the test was negative, then you were just free to do what you wanted. So I mean, I just did it like this, and to be honest, I mean, it was just like go from 2 euro to like I don't know, not 2 euro, but I mean, just trying to really speed up. I think also the bike I got was like the tires were like 1.8 inches, so it was just so thin. And I don't know, I bought a tent that was not withstanding wind very well, and my jacket was completely non-waterproof. And I was doing so many stupid things in the delivered fit, but I really learned a lot. Like, I mean, how you survive, I mean, not get all the stuff wet. And this fight was really hard. And also, I mean, I crossed 2 times in the middle of Iceland. That is really a tough place to go. I actually really felt, I mean, I just love this. I mean, I just said, this type of journey is like giving me such a strong emotions. I just really felt was 50 days alone in Iceland. And yeah, when I came back, I was like, okay, I want to see how it is like to have a normal job. But this for sure is something that I really like.
Yeah, that was like the very first seed. I love hearing how you were so out of depth on that trip. But as a beginner, you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes you have to learn through the experience of doing things the wrong way or not having the ideal setup. When you buy a tent as a beginner, you're not necessarily thinking about you're going to be camping in somewhere where there's really strong gusty winds that could blow it over or how long can it withhold the rain. You're sort of thinking, oh, yeah, I could put this up, it could fit here. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know. Everyone buys a jacket think it's going to be waterproof, but you don't realize actually some jackets are like shower proof, and after 10 minutes you're wet through anyway, or you're sweating. You've got to learn the hard way sometimes, right?
Yeah, I was having also, I was carrying so many things that didn't make any sense. I was also taking a pair of jeans and a shirt.
This reminds me, sort of tangent, but a shout out to a really recent guest, Laura McMillan. Hi, Laura. I'm not sure where you are in Africa at the moment, maybe Tanzania. But anyway, when I interviewed Laura, something she asked at the end was, what's your one luxury item that you take with you now? Because everyone's sort of got something. You're talking there about a time where you took stuff that was heavy and impractical that you wouldn't take now. But what are you taking now that you maybe could leave behind? I want to know what a luxury item of yours might be.
So I want to know what is the thing that I don't really need that I'm bringing with myself.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I'm trying to be very, because I have a lot of stuff related to kind of camera equipment like this. Close are like to the minimum. I mean, maybe the laptop is something that sometimes I'm just like thinking, maybe I don't need it. Maybe I mean, I don't know. Just questioning myself quite a lot about this. For the rest, I mean, I was traveling like until a few months ago with a camping chair. I don't know if you know, like the one from Illinois.
Oh my gosh, that's my luxury item, Giacomo. So yes, I do. I don't need it, but my gosh, I love it. Are you telling me you got rid of your Helinox chair?
Yeah, I mean, I had it, and then I was like, I don't know. In the end, I was just not using much because maybe I was too lazy, or I mean, I don't know. They just prefer to walk around. I don't know. So I just sent it back to Italy.
I love the idea that I don't have to sit on the dirt at the end of every day. It's definitely a luxury item. The laptop, though, I can imagine how the struggle must be about taking camera equipment, electronic equipment. a laptop because it's all heavy stuff that realistically you can physically do your journey without any of that. But personally, Giacomo, I'm so happy you are taking it because what you're producing on this journey is amazing. After Iceland, you went to and had a trip in Mongolia. And listeners, you definitely want to seek out Giacomo's YouTube channel and watch his Mongolia video. It is amazing. Warning, content warning, it will give you the big sense of wanderlust and want to make you probably look for tickets to Ulaanbaatar to go and bikepack through Mongolia and see these open spaces yourself. But Giacomo, without that equipment, you're not producing that type of imagery as well afterwards, right?
That's true also because, I mean, all the camera equipment that they have, the drone and the laptop, I mean, you're always worried not only because they're like heavy and it's like they could get crashed, also because they can get stolen. You're always like very concerned, I mean, about all these things. There are also like people that do like more basic videos, but they do everything just with the computer. They have maybe a YouTube channel. I don't know if you like, Carla Bella.
Yes, yes.
She did everything in the journey with just the phone. Didn't have a laptop.
Amazing journey that she took as well.
Yeah, and I mean, also she was doing, I don't know, a YouTube video every 2 weeks. And I don't know, I was shocked.
It blows my mind when people are able to do something like that during a tour. I know how much effort it goes putting out a podcast episode for people to listen to each week. It's a lot more than just running an interview and then pressing send and uploading a file. Giacomo, I bet you've got so many videos that you could produce with thousands of hours of footage, but it takes time in one spot to actually condense it down to make it a journey.
It's really a lot of work to do a video. I mean, it's something you're happy about, like in the end when you have it. But I mean, like, first of all, it's something I do it for myself. If you don't do it for yourself, then you just don't do it. To be honest, I have to say that like in the last few months, I got a bit stuck with the videos because I just feel maybe I focus more on like maybe short documentaries that I did about the experiences I had, maybe like in the coffee farm or like when I was hosted by this family in Colombia. I don't know, it's because in some moments I'm like, okay, I don't care so much about telling my story because I don't care about it for now. Yeah, maybe I will just do it later, edit later. But in this phase, I feel more like doing other things.
I want to go back to Mongolia quickly. And actually, while I'm thinking of it, we should shout out your YouTube channel. I'll provide a link to it in the show notes. But if listeners are looking to seek your channel out, what is your channel called?
It's called Giacomo Turco Cycling Beyond. The account name is the same as Instagram. It's like at cycling.beyond.
Easy. And listeners, I'll provide links to both of those in the show notes. With Mongolia, having had the experience that you'd had bikepacking through Iceland, so you'd been through those extreme, isolated sort of landscapes, what knowledge did you take on from that experience that you brought with you to Mongolia? Like, how was your Mongolia experience so different to Iceland because of that?
For me, Iceland to Mongolia was really a major step up because I kind of booked the journey like 4 months before. I booked the flight. Like then at some point, I don't know, I just realized, oh my God, I'm like really in the shit. The step up was really high because in the Iceland, you're still like in Europe, so you find like replacement parts. I don't know if something goes wrong. I mean, you still like kind of on the main road. You have a lot of signal like this. Well, I mean, in Honda, it's just okay. If you break something, then adios. I mean, you're just screwed. First, like to understand, okay, what are the spare parts I need to bring? So bring the tire, bring the brake pads, bring the cable of the shifter, the cables for the brake, and like I was also bringing a disc.
The actual rotor.
Yeah, the disc,
Wow.
and like all these kind of things, and a lot of tubes, because the problem was like, okay, you don't find the gas canister. Do the step out with like, okay, the MSR whisper light, and then you have to burn gasoline like this. And then there is no signal. I mean, having a satellite GPS device and like knowing how to do basic repair and like in the chain and all these kind of things. The last 2 months before the journey, I just like said to all my friends, okay, I'm not going out. I'm just too busy. Sorry about it. Because also, I mean, I designed my route. Was the first time I was actually really okay. You just design the route where there is no route. So you just like are just looking to Google Earth and then like see I just go there and just there is no route in Mongolia because there are no roads. The road is basically sometimes you pass through the step like this, and then this is the road. But maybe you have a road here, a road 50 meters left, a road that you expect, yeah, to be like does not does not exist. You really have to know what you're doing because situation can get a bit tragic. In the end, I always felt pretty safe, lucky with the bike, no problem. Kind of see always like somewhere like some girls that are like the typical kind of tent houses of Mongolia. If you go there and just ask for help, people are always really helpful, really friendly. Also, you just from speak the language. I mean, you just use your your hands to just show up something that you could say eating, sleeping, drinking. And then, yeah, at times we would translate, but it was really hard actually to communicate. I think the most basic stuff that really that matters the most, you can always express them. When you're just very cold and people give you, I don't know, a warm meal or like these things are well very clear.
I can only imagine, Giacomo, the amount of beautiful interactions that you've had with people all over in the countries that you visited. I'm sure that's probably been one of your highlights.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, meeting the people in many of these encounters, I see that like people live in a really like simple way. When they just live like from the milk of like their animals and like I don't know, like basic farming also here in South America. They have a very simple life, doing what you have to do, and that's it. But they always really have this smile on their face. And they're just like so happy to help you, to share what they have. I think that, I don't know, for real, these people really understood something that, I don't know, in the Western world, we really forgot totally. I mean, because we are always so worried about all these things that don't exist, that we have to do this and that. And if somebody asks for help, we're always like, very, I don't know, not happy to give help. I think the evolution of the Western society, we kind of lost something on the way because it seems like these people that have nothing are really so much happier about it, about life. What do you think about this, Bella?
It's definitely something that I've had a lot of time to consider because it comes up time and time again with other guest interviews. And I must say, as someone who's personally struggled a lot with mental health and anxiety and depression throughout my time, it's something that always gives me pause is perhaps this concept that what we deal with in the Western world that leads us to anxiety and depression isn't necessarily there in other cultures. And I do wonder about sometimes people who seem to have what we would classify as nothing always also seem to have a zest for life still. And I'm not saying they're not struggling in life, and I'm not saying that people wouldn't dream for something bigger. I'm sure that a lot of them would, but I think one of the other answers is this sense of community that a lot of people with nothing have, and whether it's they're isolated and it's just within their family or they have nothing collectively within their village, but there seems to be a stronger bond with people in those circumstances as well. And I guess that solidarity with people that life is a struggle on your own, but perhaps this is why we need to be a community to help each other out as well. Giacomo, do you feel what I'm just saying there as well?
Oh, yeah, I think it's for sure. I mean, you kind of go back to kind of, I don't know, like back in time. And I think like from, I don't know, evolutionary point of view, for humans, communities have always been very important, like to feel part of a community and kind of be connected. I think in a way, I mean, people live in a simple way and also don't have all the pressure that like our society is kind of projecting on most of us that maybe you have to achieve this, you need to get this salary, you need to get this house, or I mean, you just have what you have and you just live with what you have. And I mean, I think it's like very simple. Now maybe we're a bit romanticizing it. Also living in a very simple way could be very harsh.
Extremely hard, I imagine.
We live out of agriculture. And then, I mean, you have a storm that destroys everything. Then, I mean, then you're really on the edge of survival. Then you don't need so much to live, but still, I mean, the situation is difficult because you don't have money. So,
I cannot even fathom what that would be like from my very comfortable Australian mindset. I won the passport lottery, I won the birthplace lottery, and I won the privilege lottery. I'm very aware of it. I don't know that I could live on a subsistence lifestyle like that. I want to take you to that notion of community, though, Giacomo, because it's something that strikes me with what I've read and seen about your travels. Is obviously this is a solo journey, but you are someone who is energized when you are spending time with people and your relationships with people. How has it felt for yourself being solo for so long? You are someone who is energized with community and with people as well, because I feel that's a struggle to, on one hand, want these amazing bike adventures, but on the other hand, not be able to have that safety net of friends, family, community around you all the time as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a really nice question because I decided to travel solo from the beginning because for me, traveling solo is like living every day in a more like intense way. When you travel alone, everything is like the maximum intensity because when you're like with somebody, your emotions are kind of bounded in a good or in a bad way. So it's a, when you're touching the top, maybe the other person can hold you a bit down. Also, when you're going really down, the other person kind of hold you a little bit more up because you kind of share. And I mean, sharing kind of will lose a little bit of the intensity of the emotion. And sometimes, of course, it's nice because if something bad happens, then you can say to the other person, what do we do? And you kind of share like the bad moment. And these are also memories that last forever. But at the same time, I don't know, I think that you also, you just really talk with yourself when you're traveling alone. At moments, you kind of go in places that could be really not where you want to go. In the end, you're also having a long journey, also a short one actually, but you start having some complicated, like, kind of discussion with yourself, like the things you don't want to think about, the thing your like your worst fears, and all the things kind of come out at some point. Kind of have to accept everything, kind of pops out, and kind of accept it. I think bike journey is really about accepting whatever it happens and kind of deal with it, whatever it takes. Yes. And also I think that over the day, as you're cycling, as you're looking into things, you really, I don't know, see your life from a very different perspective. Maybe, I don't know, you think, oh, maybe this time, 2 years ago, maybe I did this to my friend. Maybe this was not nice. Like a meditation, kind of go really deep inside yourself. I mean, you get out nice things or bad things, but in the end, everything is for the better because in the end, you know yourself better. That I think for me is really one of the major point of the journey is like to see the world, we see the people, know how people live, but also really know myself. Because I think that, I mean, knowing yourself in life is really a very important thing. Because if you don't know yourself, then I mean, in life you're just doing random things. So like, I mean, you don't know what you like, who you are. It's just, I don't know, life gets really complicated. I mean, if you know yourself, I think in life you're already like a really good point because then you can kind of make better decisions.
It's interesting how you say it's the randomness of what can come up of, oh, I had this conversation years ago and that was not nice. But
Yeah.
the other thing that you were talking about there was, sometimes there's problems on the road, but you somehow deal with them. There was a quote that I came up from yours, Giacomo, and it was, life has taught me in the most difficult situations, necessity always gives you a solution. I feel that that is something that you have lived and breathed probably more times than maybe you've wanted to on this journey in South America as well, right?
I understand, yeah. But because, I mean, the thing is that also talking about the previous topic, I mean, people that live in this simple way just live up kind of true things. So, I mean, it's just about having on the table the food, the water, and the thing. And I think bikepacking life, in the end, is really kind of on the same page because, I mean, it's really less about, I mean, these moments that kind of flow, that I mean, you're just like, I don't know, really getting this special mental state, which are really kind of at the limit, is because, I mean, you just want to survive. And then maybe that's why, for me, bikepacking is so amazing because it gets you kind of focus only on the true things of life. When you're just cycling, The only problem is just like water, food, and shelter, and that's it. All the other things, what people think, and like this, like that, it's just like behind. I mean, it's very far away. And I'm also every time amazed by like how your mind, when you're like really in bad situation, gets so clear. You get so clear. You have a clarity in your mind that is maybe you never had in your life. Like when I was like on the Andes in the snowstorm, I just made only good decisions where I was like in the shit. Because your mind is just so clear. Because you want to live, you want to survive.
Because you've certainly had moments where you've been concerned about whether you've pushed the boundaries too far on this journey as well. Like I said, you definitely seek the most adventurous route. Actually, before we get into that, let's take you to South America. I want to plop you into the very first week of your travels there. You've arrived in Ushuaia and you've started riding out. I think the very first few days you actually had a tailwind. Gosh, how is that possible? But you're riding north, and something that I've noticed from people who ride north is Patagonia is always windy. That's a given. But riding, if you're heading north, it's invariably a lot worse. You had the wind struggles very early on where it's not even about going 5 kilometers an hour when you're pedaling. Sometimes it's about, can you stand still? Can you even physically stand and walk with your bike? There's certainly some of the struggles that would have hit hard so early on, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true because 1 week in the journey, I was like arrived in Rio Grande, where it's like a small town in Tierra del Fuego. And basically, there were like 4 days of like wind. There was like, I tried to cycle and get out, but I mean, it was not even possible to kind of hold the bike with the hands because the wind was, and it was so exhausting to kind of just stay outside because the wind was kind of pulling you and pushing you and pulling you and pushing you. It was not even possible to just push the bike. It was because it was just insane. Like I never seen like a wind like this. It's really, I don't know. I think the wind of Patagonia. I mean, I was really impressed. You just cannot pitch the tent, forget about it. Like, or you find a shelter place, and just forget about it.
We were talking about whether your tent was good enough in Iceland. My gosh, in Patagonia, you might have had a better tent, but you cannot. Even the idea that it's not just about flying flat ground by any means. You've got to protect it from the wind, otherwise it's going to be ripped to shreds and it's going to blow away, right?
Yeah.
It's something that came from that trip though, because you were talking how you got stuck in Rio Grande, and I remember you were at a hostel and then you tried to ride and then you realized this isn't possible, and I think you had to hitch a ride all the way back to the hostel again, and you were like, well, I'm happy because I gave it everything I've got, but it was just impossible to go on. And then when you finally did go on further, and I believe it was this part of the trip, if I'm fast forwarding you to another section, I'm sorry, you needed to seek shelter and you saw like this small fishing, like this small group of buildings and like old fishermen,
Yeah.
struck a conversation up with them and they allowed you to pitch your tent up inside and they cooked you a meal. And something that you said at the end of that sort of sequence was, if this is just one day of my journey and if every day is like this, in the next 2 years I will have lived 10 lifetimes.
Yeah.
Do you only feel that in with the benefit of hindsight with those difficult experiences? Like, it takes you to be pushed to your extremes to then be able to reflect back on the experience to go, wow, look what I did. In the moment, are you ever aware of this is happening? What you're experiencing in the moment is something that you will treasure if you can get through to the other side?
I don't know because I mean, when you're kind of into the thing, you don't really think about it. Like to be honest, because you're just like, I don't know, you just focus on like surviving because the moments of maximum intensity, you just like have no space in your mind for anything else. Think, okay, if I survive, then it will be a nice memory. But then first you have to survive. And I think that it also about this episode that you talked about, that I think also a key point for me of like backpacking is like you're very vulnerable. Vulnerable, so I mean in a good and in a bad way. People also see that you're just a desperate person. We're like, I don't know, when they see in the face, well, how tired you are, we just say, please, can I get a shelter? Can I get some water? And I mean, how can you say no? And we really appreciate so much also this help because in some moments already on the edge. But yeah, I mean, all these moments that I live also like now And I was kind of thinking about it maybe a couple of weeks ago. I was like seeing another a documentary about Patagonia. And I can remember my time in Patagonia. I don't know, it felt like, when you're like maybe you're 18 and then one day you wake up, you're like, oh, I'm 35, but you just don't even realize what happened. You just feel the same. And that's exactly how I felt. It seems like another life to me. It doesn't even seem to be. Like when I was looking back to my first video in YouTube, I was like, who is this? When you don't even know.
The other thing, you weren't just dealing with the winds from the outset. You had like a monumental equipment failure. Like your tire had totally torn and was not fixable to start with as well. It's almost like every trip you've taken, Giacomo, it's had to level up on the intensity somehow. Like you're getting more experience and you're always still a novice for the next adventure in a way, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I don't know, I think a lot of people kind of thinking that they have to be very prepared to kind of go on a bike journey trip and that they have to be perfect and have all the parts. And I think that's really something that you learn about with bikepacking, really to adapt to every situation and just accept whatever it happens. Okay, this thing broke. It's not about, oh my God, and it's not lucky that it broke. It's just, okay, if there is a solution, I will find a solution. If there is no solution, I will accept there is no solution. It was very simple as that. But we just, I don't know, in normal life, we're just so worried about things that are not really problems. And also, sorry, Bella, I just wanted to kind of come back to this previous question about like the social part. Because I mean, for sure, I mean, for me, traveling solo is like the best experience. I don't know if you know the alpinist Walter Bonatti. He's like very famous in Italy, and like he did incredible things.
I feel I know his name, but I'm struggling to know, do I really or do I think I know his name?
Was basically an alpinist explorer, and he did incredible things. And I was reading his books, and apart from the technical capacity that is insane, like what really comes out is just like really says that for him, like he always did a lot of things. Like most of these biggest adventures were like solo, because for him, doing it solo was a way to feel it more and to kind of measure himself and to learn who actually he was. It was really like a way to kind of get to know himself better. I feel kind of really the same. But at the same time, I'm really a social person. And actually, I mean, for me, I don't know, having, I don't know, people that I feel confident about is really important. And I was in the journey when I kind of got stuck for maybe 1 week or like this, I always kind of created a small group of people. And I mean, for me, this is also really important. But some way, it's just like also part of the journey to kind of accept that you don't have your friends, your family. And that's maybe what I've been struggling with in the last 3 months. Because, of course, I mean, also it's nice to, I don't know, meet everyday new people. But I mean, knowing somebody that really knows you, you can just be yourself with them is like another thing. I just really try to call them when I can. And for me, it's very important to try to keep a connection with the most important people of my life, because what you really realize that, I mean, traveling solo is nice only if you have people that care about you at home. Because if you're just solo and that's it, it's not nice. It's not nice at all. It's just a nightmare, because your life does not make any sense in that moment. So I mean, it's like maybe the cliche of Into the Wild, maybe in some way. I mean, like that there are people back home that care about you is just so important for me.
Hmm. I think actually there was a part in your trip where your parents actually came to visit you, didn't they? And you took time out from your journey. And
Yeah.
was that in Uruguay or Argentina?
Yeah,
Or
Uruguay. Yeah, we did like Buenos Aires and then we went to Uruguay. Yeah.
I think you mentioned then again saying farewell to them and setting off again. That was a really hard struggle for you. And I've seen that time and time again, Giacomo, in your trip where you've had time to be still with people and that's energized you. And
Mm.
then you're on your own again. And it's a bit of a, you have to have the conversation with yourself in a way of, do I want to be on my own? Is this what I want to continue with? Hey there, listeners. Are you tuning in and getting some inspiration for your own bike adventures? Well, here's a shout out to Old Man Mountain who are supporting the podcast. Whether you're preparing for a weekend bikepacking trip or looking to embark on a longer distance bike tour across continents, to everything in between, Old Man Mountain has a rack solution to fit your bike and suit your adventure. On their website, you will find their handy fit calculator, which will help you choose the ideal rack for your bike. Head over to oldmanmountain.com and get ready to hit the road fully equipped. Okay, back to the episode.
Yeah, because I mean, as you know, also, I mean, traveling by bike is difficult, and if traveling by bike alone is more difficult. You always have to think about everything. You always have to be very focused because if you do one or two mistakes, they can be really big mistakes. Like you forget things around, you don't get enough food, you don't get enough. So I mean, you don't really have to be very focused. I think there is also a reason if, like, in the end, people tend not to be nomadic, but to stay in a place where they have a community. Because I mean, of course, this is a lot easier. Also, this is very important for, like, yeah, humans to kind of socialize and to like trust people that they can relate with and they can just connect with them.
Do you feel there's a level of appreciation for that yourself because you've taken yourself to places where you're so far removed from any of that being available? You're touring South America, you chose to not take the Carretera Austral. So many people think of that primarily as part of their tour in South America.
Yeah, just number one route for many people. It's the top route in the world.
Yeah, whereas you were like, no, that's not for me. I want to cross the Andes solo, and you crossed it totally differently. You've got a great video about that, of your crossing of the Andes, and within the first day, the route that you took was so extreme. I think you did 20 kilometers in the day, probably most of it bush bashing and hiking a bike
Wow.
in the most rockiest of terrain. I think you said at one point, will I survive? I'm so far, I haven't seen anybody at all. What's going to happen if something goes wrong? There are obviously moments where front and mind for you, Giacomo, you're aware of the dangers perhaps of what you're doing, but also the loneliness that you're feeling in those moments. So when you get through to the other side, you get to that community. Do you think that that's what you enjoy more? And maybe for you, it's been a case of you've removed yourself away from that social side of things, that when you're in those social moments, you get to appreciate them more?
Yeah, I think that for sure, because I mean, like, backpacking is really a lot about like appreciating the simplicity in life, because I mean, all the things that I mean, maybe in the normal Western life, you can have for granted. I mean, a bed, a warm meal, the Wi-Fi, the shower, the water from the tap, and all these kind of things. It's the same for that because I think it's kind of like like you appreciate a lot like the solitude. And then, I mean, you really charge your batteries to be social, to be with people. And I think, like, also in that situation, like crossing the Andes, I think that, I mean, it was very extreme what they did. Yeah, not the smartest thing, but I mean, I kind of planned it, but of course, was a lot more difficult. But in that moment, I kind of crossed like the last big river of the day, and I kind of felt so scared, like in that night, because I was like, okay, I'm here. If something happens, I'm just screwed. But at the same time, I think that's really what kind of really makes me love so much bikepacking because you're kind of so afraid about being there in such a remote place. But at the same time, is really what makes you feel alive, makes you really feel the sense of your life. It's just surviving and like how simple this life can be. And this is something that also I say like in the video that I mean in this society we kind of try to forget. We in every moment we can just die. And I mean literally life is just it's simple.
Looking more at the route that you are taking now, because it's certainly not the traditional route. Starting from the southern point, your end point that you want for this particular journey is Alaska eventually. But how you get there isn't necessarily a linear sort of conventional line. You even at one point, you flew up to Colombia.
Yeah.
It's not even a case that you're making your way up the continent slowly but surely. You're even taking unconventional routes within the journey. I want you to tell me more about the why behind that.
Okay, so the idea is that I mean I started like with the idea, okay, start from Ushuaia and then now I was hiking everything to Alaska, just like straight bang. But then after 1 week, I just realized that I mean the point of my journey is really not about cycling like an athlete or like I mean the point of my journey is just to do what I feel, and for me it's like a 360-degree experience. It's about knowing cultures, knowing myself, seeing your places, seeing your lifestyle. So I mean, I just really realized that I wanted to get this more rock and roll approach. And of course, what I realized over time is that when you kind of define a route and you know like every day you kind of to cycle this path, it's a lot easier from a mental point of view. Well, I mean, if every day you question yourself about where you want to go, like what you want to do, gets a lot more exhausting because really every day you're asking yourself what you're going to do. And that's exactly what happened because when I arrived basically close to Santiago, was like the end of April, I would have got like a really bad situation. Like, was there any season in Chile? Then would have been like the winter, like very cold winter in Bolivia, and then the rainy season in Peru and Ecuador. She just said, okay. I got to know these two cyclists, these two bike travelers, from Canada, Zoe and Leo, that I say hi to.
Hi, Zoe and Leo.
And they said, yeah, maybe you can just fly to Colombia and then go down from there. And then this idea kind of stuck in my mind. I just said, okay, why not? Because I mean, yeah, why not? Let's do it. So I just flew and then I was going down. And yeah, so basically that's the idea why I flew to Colombia. But yeah, for me also with this idea, I was just like, over time, I kind of started hating asphalt in a way because I don't know, I just feel this is not what I enjoy. You can also go up and down, you can do nice things, but a flat film asphalt is just like, okay, what is the point of what I'm doing?
Oh, I'm with you. I don't know if it's necessarily a flat day on asphalt, but a flat, dead straight road, oh, that does my head in. I think I've said this a few times in many episodes that if you want to give me a mental breakdown, just tell me to ride in a straight line on a flat rail trail or something. Like, no.
Yeah, that's terrible. And so basically, I mean, I have a bike that is just perfect for like dirt roads, and I always try to take like the most remote paths and lead me to the most remote place where nobody goes. And that's where actually, I don't know, I feel that is more like adventure because you kind of interact with people that maybe have never seen cyclists that really get to the core of like the place. Like the reason also why I skipped like Carretera Austral is that because I just felt I was like in a Luna Park in a way. Because every day, I mean, I was like on asphalt, okay, nice views, okay. But first, you have a lot of cars. I just hate like cycling with cars because I feel really unsafe. And actually, like the highest number of deaths as a cyclist, they are related to cars, not by remote roads when you just like break your bike. And then, I mean, everything was very expensive every night in the campsite. I don't know, I just feel like that was not my experience. I was just following this approach. I mean, the idea, as we said, was to go to Alaska. But I can tell you that, like, I will go to Alaska, but not now, because now I'm going back to Santiago de Chile. And from Santiago de Chile, I will still do another year of bike touring. But the big idea is that probably I will cycle through Africa. So we go to Cape Town, and then from there, just cycle back home to Italy. I mean, this is actually like a new thing. I didn't say this to anybody, actually.
Yeah. Probably Giacomo, it's only through the experiences that you've had in the last 9 months that decisions like these get made. You know how we were talking about time on your own and time with other people? You have had some incredible experiences spent with other bike travelers. I think around Cotopaxi in Ecuador, you were with two other bike packers there for your time. That must have been an awesome experience as well.
Yeah, with these two German girls. And actually, I met them while we were still in Patagonia, and we cycled a little bit together. Yeah, I mean, actually, I say hi. I say hi to both of them, to Melanie and Louise. Hi, Melanie and
Hi,
Louise.
Melanie and
Um,
Louise. You're awesome.
for me, it was a really different experience because when you get used to also traveling alone, you kind of have to compromise more and But at the same time, I mean, if you fit with the people you're cycling with, it's an amazing experience
Mm.
because you really, I don't know, we spent 3 days cycling around Cotopaxi, 4,000 meters. And it was actually a pretty tough. It was all single track. It was just like, in some way, you can feel a lot more relaxed when you're like with other people. Because when you're alone, you're always like, oh my God, I'm alone. Actually, they are really two very strong and amazing girls, to be honest. I mean, when I was still like, I don't know, teaching the time, they were already cooking the dinner. So they were like many steps ahead of me, really like.
Oh, I love this. I love this. Woo! Flying the flag for strong women out there. In fact, hey, if you're listening to this show, get in touch with me. I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah, but actually, they're really cool. The thing is that also it's really nice to share also. I think these are two dimensions. I think it's really nice to live both.
Hey, awesome listeners! Are you loving what you're hearing on Seek Travel Ride? Do you want to keep the good vibes rolling? Then head over to our Buy Me a Coffee page and show your support for the podcast. Just a little virtual caffeine love can keep me brewing up the content which you adore. Click the link in the show notes, buy me a virtual coffee, and let's keep this podcast party going. Thanks, legends! Now back to the episode.
Was it actually during that trip or shortly afterwards, Giacomo, you had a bit of a crash, didn't you? I think I saw images of you in like a neck brace, you had grazes and everything. That was in Ecuador?
This was back in Patagonia when I was with these two girls because the mechanic kind of put me like the brake in the wrong way. So the rear brake just stopped working. In this part, we were kind of having like a really long descent. And I was just like braking. And then I just realized, oh my God, like it's not braking anymore. And that, I think this was like one of the worst moment of my life, honestly, because it was like pure fear inside my head because I was just like so scared. Because when you realize that you just cannot do anything, you just like lost completely control of the bike, and the road was like a dirt road with a lot of bumps, and I was just going faster and faster, 50 kilometers per hour downhill. So I mean, at some point there was like a cliff and like a short turn, so I was like, okay, either I jump from the bike or I just jump from the cliff. I just jumped from the bike and I actually like had my down jacket and all like the shell I had completely broke all here, and I also had a lot of blood all here. But yeah, actually, to be honest, I've been really, really lucky because I mean, bike was okay. In the end, for people, just I know in 3 days I was back on the bike. And to be honest, I don't know how I didn't break because actually that would have meant actually, I mean, not ending the trip maybe, but like a big setback.
Yeah.
I don't know. After that, for a while, I was really scared about going downhill.
You lived my greatest fear of being on a downhill and then realizing no brakes, no brakes.
Not right. Because a lot of people told me, "Oh, it's never gonna be the same because you always be traumatized by this." But in the end, after a couple of months, I was like, "Okay, I just have to brake. Just be." Of course, now I'm more careful about the brakes if everything works well. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, I just could do crazy downhills to the other side, just already, but I still do that.
And you'll still definitely do them. Something that I really love about your journey too, though, is it's not always about traveling to places on the bike. Now, sometimes you've got the bike there and you are hauling your bike with you, but you are also taking time out to do treks and walking multiple days through the middle of the night sometimes to reach incredible places. We were talking at the very start of the show. I'm speaking to you just a couple of days after you had a phenomenal trek right up to 6,000 meters to the top of a peak there. I cannot even imagine the experiences that you had during this time. Have you always enjoyed hiking? And I'd love you to tell me about this recent trek that you took as well.
Yeah, I think like in the end, I don't know if maybe you also agree with that, but I think like all the people that do bike traveling also enjoy hiking in some way. I mean, I think it's really rare that like people that do bike touring, they're like, no, I don't like trekking. I don't like this. Bike touring just mean an evolution of this passion for outside. It kind of leads you to another level. because I've been living 3 months in Kathmandu in Nepal when I was working like remotely from there. And I did like this track that is called Free Passes track, where you reach up to 5,500. It's like a 20 days track. So it's like really long, but it's not unsupported. So you just like in the houses. For sure, I mean, I always like adventure. I mean, trekking is always an adventure. So, yeah, I started from Arequipa, 2,300. In 3 days, I went like to the base camp of Chachani volcano, 6,050 something. And it was actually pretty fun because I had to bring all the water for the last 3 days with me because it was just like in the Puna above 4,000 meters and there's just no water. So I brought 10 liters on the bike. The last day to reach the base camp was like the whole day pushing the sand because either was too steep, either was too sandy, or either I had no oxygen because I mean the base camp was still at 5,000. People say, yeah, there is no oxygen, you're high, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, there is really a lot of difference between, I don't know, doing 1,000 meters of elevation gain when you're like at 1,000 meters and you're like at 5,000 meters.
Yeah, and then the next 1,000 meters from 5 to 6,000 meters, like with how the lack of oxygen's hitting you, it would hit you so hard.
Yeah. So I arrived to the base camp. I just hid my bike behind a rock. And then I woke up at 11:30 with like, of course, like, yeah, I put all the clothes I had and I just started walking by myself uphill. I mean, I just realized that I was actually going a little bit too fast, like from what I expected. So I actually kind of also had to stop on the way, but not too much because otherwise you kind of freeze. Kind of complicated. But then I arrived like at 5 on the summit, 10 minutes before the sunrise. And to be honest, was one of the strongest emotional of my life because I mean, just being there alone at 6,000, the sunrise, seeing this amazing landscape, see everything. And also, I mean, it was a very emotional moment because it was actually like right after like a period of the 1, 2 months in which it just was actually pretty sick. I was a bit afraid I just couldn't push myself to this level anymore. And so, I mean, this really meant a lot to me. It was really a crazy experience, to be honest.
I can only imagine the emotions, but also what a gift of yourself, like a sunrise at 6,000 meters. You're so high up in the landscape. It's like nature drawing the curtains open, isn't it?
You just feel like how amazing is this planet, how amazing is life, and that's really what I felt. I mean, there are just no words to describe some things. You can just leave them, and this is like exactly one of these emotions.
I've seen the photo from that summit of that sunrise. Listeners, I'll share it with you. It is amazing, Giacomo. It's like the proper peak of the mountain as a shadow and across the landscape. I've talked many times on the show with guests about moments of awe where nature makes you feel the size of an ant. And I imagine that's one of those times.
Yeah, I just feel it just a small thing on the top of a mountain that sees everything. You just, yeah, really see like the horizon in every direction. It's just very unique. And to be honest, I mean, this adventure kind of give me so much energy, really so much energy to kind of keep going with my journey. I want to go to get on top of other mountains now that I get to Bolivia. I think there will be a lot of very cool adventures ahead. So really excited about this.
You talked briefly there how this was the first real big journey after coming through a sickness, because you got really sick and were in hospital and had a long drawn out process for a diagnosis. I think you've now been diagnosed. You had a parasite?
Yeah, actually, I got two parasites in a row because first I was not eating well and I got Giardia. So I just got all the antibiotics for that. But then after that, I was still not feeling well. So, but it was a bit hidden. I was like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, something strange is happening. Maybe I just didn't get rid of it. When I was in Peru, I just started went to the hospital. They did like all the analysis of the blood. And then they said, okay, I mean, we just didn't see anything in the analysis, so we have to do an endoscopy. And I mean, in that moment, I just started crying because it was really a moment that was like, I had a lot of negative emotions that were rising. And like really, it just like exploded because I just felt really alone in Peru really far away, doing the endoscopy, and it was like, it's not the easiest thing. But yeah, okay, finally I got the result that I got this other parasite that's called Helicobacter. Since then, I got my therapy. But then, I mean, when I got the therapy, I kind of had kind of a difficult time with myself, more psychologically at this point, because I was like, my mind was like, hey, Giacomo, you've been like stuck for like 2 months. What are you doing still in the same place? Just go. But then my body, my conscience was like not feeling really comfortable, was like I was not confident with myself. So I kind of felt really a lot like this conflict with these two parts of myself. And I really had a moment in which, I don't know, I kind of really said, what am I doing here? I was crying a lot. I was really like down to pieces for like a few days. I was just, yeah, I was really on the edge. And to be honest, I didn't imagine that a bikepacking trip could have been this hard. I always believed I was a bit stronger than this. And then, I mean, in that moment, I was just really into pieces. So, I mean, I really felt so fragile, so without a meaning. So I think that moment really I touched the bottom really. A lot of people were like saying, "Yeah, come back home, come back to Italy." But then I mean, I was still like, when I will see there's a moment to come back to Italy, I will come back. But I mean, this is still not the moment. I just didn't feel actually was making a lot of sense apart from running away from I don't know maybe a difficult situation.
No one ever plans a bikepacking adventure or a bike touring adventure, whatever we want to call it, with the view that you might wind up in hospital and be sick. Taking out travel insurance, for example, for these type of situations can be really hard when you're taking active travel. Did you take travel insurance out? And if you did, have you got any advice as someone who maybe has used that for people listening to the show who've had this as a concern for themselves?
I mean, not really. I think like travel insurance is like a big part of actually preparing the journey. In the end, I mean, the insurance I got is actually an insurance that is actually just cover me in the moment there is an emergency. I don't know, I break an arm, or like I get to like something serious. But if they get you one night in the hospital, they don't have to take care of it. Or if it's just something more like light and you're still okay, then I mean, they're not actually taking care of that. I mean, I was just going to public hospital in Peru. Yeah, I mean, it was not so expensive. But apart from that, I think that, to be honest, I found a pretty good hospital because the doctor, he was very professional, like really very professional. And was everything she said was like evidence based. But yeah, I think for everybody that is kind of planning to go for a bike journey in a remote place, or just like, let's say, out of Europe, out of the US, maybe, kind of have to deal with the fact that, yeah, especially if you want to, I mean, live with the people and like eat what they eat, like this, I think to some extent, like getting sick is part of the experience, maybe. Yeah, I mean, this situation was a bit tough because it was actually running long and mentally, I don't know, my mind was going very far away. So that was the most difficult part because kind of feel very stuck.
You were talking earlier in the show that bikepacking puts front in mind of your core the basics. You need food, you need shelter, you need water. You also need health.
I mean, I just really realized that health so it's really something that until now I kind of gave for granted. And then, I mean, that moment I was like, when I was really feeling so good, man, no problems with anything, I just couldn't appreciate how beautiful is life when you're healthy. And now that I'm like so sick, now I just realize how a gift is to feel well, to be healthy.
With your journeys, Giacomo, you definitely take the more hardcore trails. You were talking about researching on Google Earth to find the ways and moving away from the Luna Park of the Carretera Austral, for example. You don't want the easy routes. A lot of it boils down to that sense of adventure. And it's a question I've started recently asking some guests is what does adventure mean to them? Because that word adventure invokes so many different meanings to different people. I want to know, what does the word adventure mean to you? Someone who, from my perspective, is taking it to the absolute extremes on what you're doing sometimes on your tours.
I think I don't know, adventure is somehow getting back to being a child in a way. I mean, not the most basic, but like, I don't know, your childish feelings of like when, as I said before, behind you have like something that is a safe place, that is where you feel well. And then in front of you, you maybe have a dream, you have something that excites you that is unknown. Adventures, you like moving between these two things on the way, or like kind of going to your, yeah, to what kind of excites you. And I think like adventure is really about emotion for me and unknown. Because I mean, if everything is known, then it's not an adventure. There are also like just like tours that go basically to base camp with the jeep of Chechani, and then in the night you go with the guide to the summit. Okay, but then I mean I could do it, but I think like do it yourself. I mean, not knowing well the path and just finding out and just like checking on the map. I'm here. And I think like adventure is facing the known, really. Yeah, like uncertain situation, how you find your way into things you don't know.
Mm, that rings true for me. If I like, to me, the outcome is unknown. Whether you can get there is unknown. What will happen on the way is unknown.
Yeah, unknown is really like the block is the basic block of like adventure. And it's not really just about physical aspect. It's a lot mental. Like this journey, like I think there's a lot of people say, wow, you must be so trained for this journey. You must be so strong physically. And I mean, of course, I'm okay physically, but at the same time, the hardest part of the journey is not the physical part. Like it's not about, it's like the mental part. It's like every day handling the situation, not knowing where you're gonna sleep. I think like a lot of people, they didn't try bike touring, they don't really understand this. That's why I think it's the strongest drug on this planet is bike touring, because really, I don't know, every day you're just live an amazing adventure that is all like in your mind, and that you have to find a way to solve it.
Because it is an adventure. There was a quote I came up from you, Giacomo. You said, I feel it so much. People often think when you go bikepacking, everything is amazing. But actually, there's so many things that fall apart and you struggle with, but you have to keep going. That's really at the root of the adventure there, isn't it? It's not all unicorns, blue sky, and rainbows. There's lots of struggles.
Yeah, I mean, what people also think is like this. That I mean, you just quit your job, and I mean, you're just like in South America, just drinking a peaceful sour, and just like looking to sunset. It's not really like this. Actually, most of the time, actually, I'm not even enjoying the sunset because I'm like, okay, because most of the time when I at sunset, I don't have a camp spot, so I'm like, okay, well, maybe there is the wind, so I'm like, oh shit. But then, I mean, somehow you always make it. And that's what really a really big lesson that bikepacking kind of teaches you. Is that, I mean, somehow you always make it. I mean, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, but you make it.
And there's always a story at the end of it as well. I want you then, Giacomo, to take me and the listeners to a moment. It could be a moment of struggle. It could be a moment of an amazing wild camp. It could be an adventurous moment. And I want you to do that by telling us one day of your trip. Now, super fans of the show will know Giacomo from sharing a day of his trip already for our Cycle Shorts midweek series. But Giacomo, I get to be greedy and ask you for another day now. And I want you to take me and the listeners there any day you want, any country, any adventure. Tell us all about that day.
Maybe I would like to talk about like maybe the last day of my cycle tour, like in Mongolia. Basically, what happened is that I took this mini bus that kind of attached my bike to this mini Soviet bus with like a scarf. And I was like so scared because I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose the bike on the way. And the road was just terrible, just mud everywhere. We just couldn't get it out. But basically, after 18 hours straight of minibus, we arrived basically at very close, like a few kilometers from the border with Russia. It's like a part where nobody goes. And then from there, I was just like cycling. Like the idea was like 4 days to go back. And the thing is that the last part was terrible because I was just like so sandy that I was just pushing the bike. But this was not the worst thing because I was just pushing the bike for the whole day. But the worst part was that there were like so many mosquitoes, but so many, and they were like biting me. Like I was like in 1 second, and like the whole arm full of mosquitoes everywhere. I was getting mad because I was just trying to get the mosquitoes out. At the same time, push the bike. I was exhausted. I wanted to cry. I was like, I just want this thing to finish. But at the same time, as you know, it's just like nobody will help you out unless you help yourself. Like when you're solo backpacking. Eventually, I just got out, and then I mean, I just found these guys that were like putting like a signpost. They said, "Oh, you look very tired." I was actually speaking in English, so it was like, "Wow, it's incredible that they speak in English." And then they said they invited me to kind of come to the campsite of the mother of one of them, that had a campsite in front of the lake, and to get some rest. And I kind of joined them, and we had a really nice night with the fire. We were like swimming and drinking vodka, like this. That night, also realized that one of them was actually the son of the ex-president of Mongolia. I stayed with them like 3 days, and then we came back together to Ulaanbaatar because in a few days also I get the flight, so I just went with them. And I was staying like in the apartment of the ex-president of Mongolia. There was like on the like one of the last floors of this like skyscraper in Ulaanbaatar. It was just unbelievable.
See, that's an adventure, isn't it? And totally unknown. I bet you never thought you never thought that hauling your bike through a sandy dirt track, battling off thousands of mosquitoes, would lead you a few days later to a primo penthouse view in Ulaanbaatar.
Well, once like start the adventure, like you just don't know what's gonna happen. You just like go with the flow, and you just accept it. And you just sometimes it just lead you to like places you could never imagine. It's unbelievable. Like
Giacomo, I have to ask you. It's a question I've just thought of, but I'm keen to find out. You know, when the moments are hardest, you get to survival instincts of just sorting out the absolute basic. I want to know, when you're in moments that not necessarily at that level, like it could just be the mundane moments where maybe you're questioning, oh my gosh, the weather is so grim or something like that. Do you ever visualize, like, I would call it like your adventure mirage, of where you like put yourself forward to an amazing place? And what is your sort of magic destination? I can't wait to get to camp. Oh, if I could cook this meal, this would be amazing, or something like that. Do you ever do some positive sort of visualization of, when I get out of this, I'm going to reward myself with this type of thing? Like, is that something you've ever thought about?
I mean, I think like it's nice, for example, to have a shower, to have a nice meal, and like really, I think you kind of yeah. I think I kind of dream about these things because my mattress is like actually comfortable, so I'm okay with that. Having a shower, like after a week of just like fighting against the element, very nice experience.
Yeah. Feeling clean again.
Yeah, I mean, also, I mean, for example, if somebody like gives you a word meal, it's just very nice. I mean, it just
Oh, 100%. And I bet you've had some very basic meals, but everyone that's a fan of the show knows I'm a massive food lover. How can I not talk about food at some point? What's one of the best meals that you've had with someone?
a crazy experience I had. It was just like when I was passing through this small town in Patagonia, there was like this celebration, this traditional celebration going on. And the third day, they have what they say like the asado popular, is like basically a barbecue for everybody. And it's just like they like put basically like in a traditional way, they kind of have like a stick and they put like the animal kind of on it. And then like the whole town eat from like, yeah, from this meat. The meat in Argentina is like definitely the best meat in the world. I mean, I have never tasted meat like this, just like another level. And also another really nice thing that I enjoyed was the mate culture. I think is amazing because, for example, I don't know, in Italy we use a lot like to drink coffee with the people or drink wine. But I think mate is something that connects you from the very first moment with the all the people, because just the person arrives, like they'll just arrive and they just say, "Okay, do you want mate?" So they give you the mate. It's like I give you my cups. So you just like drink and they give it back, and the person drinks, And from like the first moment, you just feel so welcome by this small thing. Because it's like, I give you my cup with my matter and I give it to you. And then like keep going back and forth. And I think like having your own cup is not really the same.
Oh wow! Hey, I have to admit, I sound so ignorant. I don't know what mata is. Like, what is it that they're giving you? Like, is it just the term for them sharing their drink with you, or is it actually a specific drink?
No, mate would be like yerba mate. It's like a herb, like that is typical, like in the part of Argentina and Uruguay. Yeah, it's basically like a green plant, and you basically kind of coat it with the hot water. It feels like a little bit like a tea, but of course the taste is different. And you kind of have like this, how do we say, do?
Like a straw?
Yeah, like a straw that is called mate. I don't remember the name because the mate is like the cup.
And then there's like a vessel that you slurp it through.
No. A lot of like also traditions around this. For example, you don't have to say thank you because if you they say thank you means they don't want it anymore. And also the way you prepare it, like the balance between hot water, cold water, it's just like really another thing in Argentina, especially. But yeah, it's really an amazing tradition. I think actually when I will come back to Italy, I will try to bring like mate because I think actually I would bring it back, use it with my friends and my family because I really enjoyed it.
Giacomo, people will be listening to your story and will want to follow your journey along. The best way to do that for you, would that be through your Instagram and YouTube account?
Yeah, I think probably is the best idea. Yeah, so in my name is like on Instagram is like at cycling.beyond on Instagram. And the handle is like the same on YouTube.
Listeners, I'm going to provide links to it in the show notes, and I definitely encourage you to follow Giacomo and to also trawl through his catalogue of videos and photos and the words that he puts to his journey as well. I think, Giacomo, if it's anything I've learnt from talking with you, is you're taking the adventurous route, but you're also posing yourself the most deepest of questions about yourself through this. And I think that's going to resonate with a lot of our listeners as well. I could speak to you for hours, and I do need to wrap the show up. I'm going to do it asking the same few questions, though. You're a guest of the show now. You get to choose a song to go on the Seek Travel Ride music playlist. What song are you picking, Giacomo, to be the soundtrack to your adventures?
Thing is actually changing a lot over time, but maybe one song that really in these moments I really like is a Hate Street Dialogue from Rodriguez. I really like these kind of old school songs from the 70s, like to listen when I'm riding.
I don't know this song, but I'm going to find it and add it to the playlist. And actually, listeners, heads up, I've been locked out of my Spotify account in some weird way where my playlist has been disconnected from the podcast and I can't add songs to it. So I'm going to, if you're subscribed to the original one, that's fine. I'm going to just start up a new one and add it there as well. Because, yeah, Spotify's done something quirky and their customer support have not helped so far. So hang on, Giacomo, your song Heat Street Dialogue?
Yeah, from Rodriguez.
Okay, I'm going to find it and I'll make sure I message with you and get the right song on there. Okay, you are down. Next question. Shout out to guest Laura McMillan. You have shook this question up, turned it on its head, and I've changed things a little bit. And Giacomo, you're going to be the first person I really pose it to properly. Giacomo, you're given the choice one day. You can cycle all day into a horrendous, horrible, strong headwind, or alternatively, cycle all day into an never ending, constant, rough, corrugated dirt road. Which one are you going to choose?
I mean, for sure, the corrugated one. I mean, if you're on a corrugated path, you just take your time, you just do it, no problem. But I mean, the worst thing about the wing, it just really exhausts you mentally, and it is just that it kind of makes you mad. But like, it's just that some point you just want to give up because it's kind of, I think it's like really a mental struggle in a way because it's like really a psychological challenge with yourself. I mean, you know that if you keep going, when eventually you arrive somewhere, but you go so slow, like your mood kind of goes down so much, your motivation are just like kind of falling down, falling apart. I mean, a curvated road is just okay. The road is just like this. It just goes low. That's it.
I imagine you've had your fair share of corrugations and headwind,
Or the super red roads.
or the two together, and then it's raining. That would be the
I
best.
mean, yeah, I mean, because like in Patagonia, at some point I was riding with a Croatian man. And it was like every time the situation was a bit pressing, he was always saying, "Oh, at least it's not raining." And I mean, it's nice because I mean, you always see like the half cup full in a way.
Do you ever say that to yourself when it's bad and go, "Well, at least it's not raining," and then nature says, "Hold my beer," and makes it snow?
Yeah, but yeah, also like the last when I was going down from the volcano, I basically had exactly this situation. It was like crazy headwind. At the same time, was like very sandy and a lot of washboard. So I was just like trying to kind of like avoid the washboard and the sand, and meanwhile fighting with the wind. You just don't have to think too much about it because otherwise you're just like you just stop, you just like give up. Like, you just have to just try to think, okay, I'm just like moving my feet, my feelings, moving my feet, right, left, right, left, and that's it. The only thing you have to do is just really 1 feet at a time and just get over. Like, don't think about all the bad things. Otherwise, it's not gonna make it.
You're right, and it takes you back to what you were saying at the very start of the show, that it strips it back to basics. You go into survival mode and you just think, what do I need to do to keep going? Final question for you, Giacomo. You're given a choice one day. You can cycle all day, 4 hours on your own, or choose to be cycling for 4 hours with other people. Which one are you going to choose?
Well, like every day has to be the same. Like I mean, if I choose like one of those is like for all my life is like this.
Well, technically the question is only for 4 hours, which I don't think is long enough because people say, oh, they choose other people because then they're on their own afterwards. So I'm actually going to change it up and say, no, you get to choose. Are you going to cycle on your own or with other people forever? There we go.
I mean, it's basically my life. It's just like you know all the time. The thing that I like it, if you know that there are like some people that you care about and like that maybe they're also close to you, I think it's nice to suffer alone. If you're just alone and that's it, yeah, it's not nice. So, I mean, it's just better to just cycle with people you care about.
Okay, cycling with people that you care about. I've got you down there.
And that's the problem. That I mean, so far I didn't find many people that would enjoy a bike tour like this. The beginning, I started solo because nobody could actually handle such a. Nobody wanted actually to try something so extreme. Bike packing, especially the first week you're bike packing, it could be like a nightmare. But if you survive, then I mean, you're just addicted. Then you're just okay. This is like I mean, I love this thing, and then you just a lot of people are kind of holding them back, are holding back themselves because I don't know, you just feel like too difficult. Maybe they see really, I don't know, maybe I'm doing maybe a bit extreme stuff. But I think like also bike touring is like really you kind of decide your own like challenges. So I mean, you can do like a really like I don't know if you do like a tour in Europe, like an asphalt. I mean, it could be just a really yeah, very nice, very easy kind of trip. Of course, if you're going to anything you want to go on top of a volcano, or dirt road, you can, but you can also push it a lot. I mean, you decide what you're signing up for. So that's the nice part in the end.
Your adventures are for you, and choose your own adventure, go and travel on two wheels and be rewarded with what you'll experience along the way.
Well, message for like all the listeners, maybe for me would be like maybe a lot of people are like intimidated because they think like yeah, like bike touring is like a big deal, it's just like hard and as I said, you can choose your own adventure. And I think like in the end is like really important when you choose it that you just like do what kind of makes sense for you and that you enjoy doing. Every person is different, has his own like challenges, has his own limits, has his own dreams. So I think it's really important that every person just find his own bikepacking adventure that makes sense to them and doesn't have to be just like going all around the world in South America on volcanoes just alone. It could be also just I think you can really just very in an easy way. You can just maybe do all overnighter. You can just go, I don't know, from your place to the house of somebody else, of your other friend, and start like in a very easy way, in a very smooth way, and you will then get used to it and see how beautiful it is and how many unexpected things can happen on the way.
Absolutely. And Giacomo, I take you back to the answer to their very first question. You told me then, since a little child, you were having adventures on your bike, and it's exactly the same thing. Just those small journeys can be an adventure too. As I look to wrap the show up, what a great chat I've just had with you, Giacomo. I have enjoyed this so much. Just it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you, to learn more about you. I've gotten a real better understanding for the reasons why you're taking the type of travel you're taking. And I can understand now more profoundly the insights which you've hit yourself with from pushing the absolute limits. You were saying so many things that really stuck out with me, and I've said it already, is that idea that it's through pushing your boundaries that you realize that you strip life back to its absolute basic core. You always find out that what you need to survive is quite basic. You've reinforced that need for the sense of community, for being able to check in, the idea that you can only do these solo journeys because you've got people who love you and support you from afar. And also that there is always a solution, and necessity will always give you that one. When things go wrong, there is always a way. All to say, Giacomo Turco, it has been an absolute pleasure. I cannot wait to watch the rest of your journeys unfold. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and experiences here on the podcast for Seek Travel Ride.
Thank you so much, Bella. I really hope that, yeah, maybe this chat actually can maybe inspire somebody to start his own bikepacking journey. Would be really nice. Right. Yeah, thank you so much. It was really such an interesting conversation with you. Thank you.
Well, listeners, what did you think there about Giacomo Turco's story? For me, it was adventure taken to the absolute limits. And he's really aware of it at times too, that he is taking things to silly extremes, but he's always found a way. I absolutely love his zest and his passion for bikepacking. I love that he's aware of the life lessons he's teaching himself in the moment, and I cannot wait to see his adventure unfold as he continues onwards through South America. And wow, breaking news, looking to take on Africa as well. I wish Giacomo the best of the weather. May he have more tailwinds than headwinds and smooth roads, not necessarily corrugated. I'm sure he's going to be continuing to take on adventurous routes, and I cannot wait to see them all unfold as well. Now, listeners, if you are enjoying what I've put together here on Seek Travel Ride and you want to support me and the show, you can do so by clicking the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. It's just a small way for you to show the appreciation for all the work I'm doing to put these episodes together for you each and every week. Keep me virtually caffeinated, buy me a coffee, and send me a message on there to tell me what you love about the show as well. I've included a link in the show notes so it's nice and easy for you. And until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening. And that's a wrap on today's adventure. Before you head off, here's a final shout out to Old Man Mountain for supporting the podcast. If you're dreaming of a new bike adventure or mapping out your next big tour, you want to make sure your gear can keep up with you every pedal stroke of the way. Old Man Mountain racks are built to handle any terrain you choose, from rough off-road trails to smooth highways, giving you reliable, stable carrying power that frees you up to focus on your adventure. Check out their full range at oldmanmountain.com and start gearing up for wherever your next journey takes you.